we might get interrupted by a video coming across us, so bear with us in that respect. I'd like to welcome you to the Blue Room. Today we have with us Ben Cross from GLOMO and Love+Relo webcast, and also more recently Alto Vita. Ben, welcome, and thank you very much for joining us. No,
thank you, Richard. I appreciate it.
Well, I really have enjoyed and benefited from your Love+Relo broadcasts, and so before we go any further, I do recommend that everybody look up Love+Relo on LinkedIn and start listening to Ben on a daily basis.
And people can connect with me if they want to connect with me on LinkedIn, and that's a great way to get the show, because it is streamed through my personal LinkedIn account. So if they're connected with me, they should get a notification, and an annoying notification at 4 o'clock Eastern time US. I think that's maybe 10 o'clock or something in London, and maybe 9. I'm not sure. Anyway, so yeah, that's the best way to. Oh, there's Jenna. Hey, Jenna, how's it going? Jenna's awesome. Jenna's a newest member of the GLOMO team, so super happy to have her on here.
And in fact, you've got a Love+Relo tomorrow introducing Jenna, haven't you?
Yeah, so this is kind of a little teaser here. This is our first public announcement, maybe. I don't know. So look at that. Oh, Jackie. What's up, Jackie? In Cypress, Texas, outside of Houston, I think. Good to see you too.
Yeah, thanks, Jackie. Yeah, no, it's exciting. I think you announced it on LinkedIn yesterday, and yeah, very much looking forward to that. So Ben, you've apart from your global mobility expertise and knowledge, and we'll come on to that, but I've also been very impressed by the way in which you've recently handled very sensitive issues online. So minority-owned businesses and the like, and so massive kudos to you for how you've handled that.
Yeah.
Like I said to you on one of those broadcasts, it was so riveting. I was missing my dinner every day because it becomes at dinner time here in the UK. But no, would you like to kind of just in a nutshell let the listeners know what you've covered there, perhaps, and the recordings that are available?
Well, I appreciate you saying that, Richard. With Love+Relo, I have a platform that I can do and say whatever I want, right? For better or worse. And sometimes there's some stories and things that we need to talk about that, frankly, other people aren't going to talk about. And if they're not going to do it, then somebody has to, right? And so I feel kind of blessed to have an opportunity in my life to be able to speak about these things. We've had some amazing conversations about race. Last year, we read a book called White Fragility, which really turned everything upside down, and talked about, the white privilege, frankly, which is something that especially white folks like me don't love talking about. So we talked about that. We've talked about Asian hate, which is a big thing here in the US. And I think maybe even globally, where that it's a racism that's not often spoken about. We've talked about being an ally to women in the workplace as men. How do we create spaces and opportunities and environments where women feel safe and can bring their whole selves to work, and so organizations can also now benefit from having those diverse perspectives. Most recently, we had an LGBTQ week on Love+Relo, where we highlighted the stories of LGBTQ professionals in global mobility. Far too often, I feel like we talk about employees and assignees of our client companies who are LGBTQ, and we talk about how, policies and how can we create inclusive language and policies for them, but we don't often talk to them, right? And in doing so, a lot of times their stories get othered, and that's a really dangerous thing. And so we learned about heteronormativity and the fact that society tends to default to a heteronormal perspective and how dangerous that is, and it's just as dangerous as racism, frankly. So so we tackle some issues. It's not all heavy like that. Sometimes you cry, sometimes you laugh, but we try to be real, and give people real stories and make real connections and have real engagement with the community and try to be representative. So thank you for noticing that, Richard. It means a lot to me. Appreciate that.
No, God, absolutely. There were some heart-rending accounts. You don't. I've even learned the word cisgender from your broadcast. So I had to Google it, but
I learned it too. It wasn't a word that was in my vocabulary, and I learned it last year when we were reading, how to be an ally to women in the workplace. And cisgender, basically, for people out there that don't know, is not transgender. So if you're not transgender, then you're cisgender, and that means if you're a cisgendered white male, there's a lot of privilege that comes along with that in life. And, I think we have to understand that. And we have to also say, okay, how do we use our privilege to also empower other people to create kind of a level playing field in life? And I'm learning too, Richard. And honestly, I don't know all the answers. And I'm not like this guru of inclusivity. I'm just a guy out here, just a white guy out here trying to learn and be a better person, right? And I think if we all approach it that way, it works, right?
Absolutely. I mean, it's said, that there has to be action beyond the discussion. But if you've got to start the discussions, then you're part of the way there. So I think it's really really great that you've done that.
Thank you.
So yeah, and I'm an avid viewer of Love+Relo, definitely.
Thanks. Well, and I got to say too, honestly, Richard, my first exposure to you was on the Saba wine events that you would do, right? The networking events. And I thought those were amazing. I had received the emails and the invitations, and honestly, it was like kind of 11 a.m. my time. So it was always hard to like kind of pop in. But after the first one, I love the way that you organized it. I mean, you did it in Zoom, but you did it in a way that I had not seen done before. And there was a speed networking event, and we kind of were thrust into these different rooms, and you could tell by the vibe in there that there was a lot of engagement and people really enjoyed being there. And so it was a very vibrant bunch. And so I have a lot of respect for what you're doing also with Saba. I think it's great. And so I'm really happy to be here on the Blue Room on the first episode. Pretty stoked about it. So thank you for having me.
No, it had to be. It had to be you. And I don't know who amongst the viewers are familiar with Father Ted, but there's a drunken priest, and you dangle a bottle in front of him, and he'll go anywhere. And it's pretty much that with Saba Wine Time. it's in the branding. The secret's in the branding. I don't think anyone would deny that. But yeah, by the way, thank you everybody for tuning in. So let's have a look. Jana, of course, Jackie, Milton, Jamie. Hi, Jamie, and see you tomorrow.
Hey, Jamie.
So, and yeah, he's there. And great, the Jamie, post perhaps in the chat about the action that you've started on LinkedIn regarding the charity in, I believe it's Sri Lanka.
Yeah, I think it's Sierra Leone. Yeah, and so Jamie, kudos to Jamie for really pushing this initiative, and he's working with Jana on our team. One of the things we really like doing with Love+Relo is giving people voices, and that's not just people in mobility, but also people worldwide, and then saying, okay, how do we leverage our influence and our privilege as professionals? How do we leverage that influence to help other people who don't have the same voice and presence and influence, right? And so Jamie actually, cheers to Jamie, see you there, buddy. He came, he has this, oh gosh, Jamie, I'm going to mess it up. Jamie, put it in the comments, put the link to the organization. But it's about the young girls of Sierra Leone. And so we're going to do a benefit for them in 2 weeks time. And Richard, I hope that we can collaborate on that too, and involve your community as well, and kind of come together and maybe raise a little bit of money, right?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, that'd be great. Yeah, 100%. So, by the way, please do post questions in the chat.
Yeah, bring those
General
questions on. I love questions. Nobody ever asked me any questions. Richard, what's up with that? I'm asking everybody questions all the time. Nobody cares what I got to say.
Well, that's a great lead. You should be an anchor. Well, you are an anchor man, pretty much. Yeah, that's a great lead into what I wanted to ask, actually, because you said, not an expert in those different, some of the topics you cover, but you're asking the questions and opening up the discussions. But you are, I consider, an expert in global mobility relocation. What I'd be fascinated by, and I'll come clean with everybody. I know nothing about relocation and global mobility other than where it, where it's connected with service departments. It's a market, but what's it all about? Well, first of all, how did you get into global mobility?
Well, this should be a good conversation, Richard, because I'm going to confess to you, I know nothing about service departments other than how it connects to relocation and global mobility. I'm also going to confess to you, I still am not 100% sure what the difference is between global mobility and relocation, other than global mobility sounds a lot cooler than relocation. So, we're all learning here and getting better, and just throwing words around, trying to sound smart, keep our jobs, right? But how did I get into relocation? Really quickly, honestly, it was the first job I could get out of college. My girlfriend at the time, who's now my wife, and I were living with my mom in Texas after college. And we were like, we have got to get out of here. We cannot live with my mom any longer. And so we took the first job we could get, and that was at Pods, actually, a moving and storage company with the white containers. I don't know if I think they have them over there in the UK, but they're real big over here in the US. I think they're in Australia as well. Anyway, and I was selling Pods containers for long distance moving in the US over the phone, and that's how I got into the moving business. And I'll confess, I wasn't really in the relocation business per se for the first 10 years of my career. I didn't even know that the relocation business really existed. Kind of like, what you were saying, right? Like, we know our lane, we know what we do, we know that really well. I knew moving containers, but I didn't know how it fit into the bigger picture. And I think one theme in my career has been always kind of asking, what's next, leveling up, and then pulling out and zooming out and saying, okay, how does this fit into the bigger picture? And okay, how does that fit into the bigger? How does that fit in? And thinking more strategically. And as we get a bigger picture view, just a little piece of advice out there for everybody watching, as we get a bigger picture view of how everything fits in, we can make much, much more impactful strategic decisions. And that also translates to money as well for you personally, right? So I would encourage everybody to understand, how does what I do fit in to my company, to my industry, and to the world at large?
Yeah. It's interesting that story. Similarly, I kind of just chanced into hospitality. I don't know. My kids have had a far more structured approach, and maybe I should have done, but it's too late now. Yeah. And
it's never too
exactly.
late, Richard. It's never too late. Look at you, man. That's one thing I love about you too.
Yeah,
Richard,
that's what.
Yeah, look at you out here. You're doing the Saba thing. You're doing the Zooms. You're doing the live streams. You're doing all this stuff. I mean, it's never too late. I mean, unless we're literally about to die right now, which is of our own choosing, then it's never too late to reinvent, to grow, So I applaud you. I have so much respect.
Yeah, thank you. That's a really interesting word that you've just used there with reinvent, because we've talked a lot about agility over the past year and a half, and certainly the service department sector is moving around quite a lot. Is it? And it's funny that you say with. I'm glad you said about global mobility and relocation. That's really reassuring because I also think there's a difference.
Well, I'm going to define them for you a little bit, and then I'm going to ask you a question. Okay.
Okay.
So
yeah.
the question: what is the difference between global mobility and relocation? A not serious answer is there is no difference. A serious answer is I think global mobility is a little bit larger of a field and relocation is a subset. So relocation also has to deal with a permanency as well, right? So it's a permanent change versus global mobility, which could be a short-term assignment, extended business travelers. You know, it's kind of like anytime talent moves for any length of time, whereas relocation has a permanency. And because it has a permanency, it deals more with like real estate transactions, whereas global mobility, you know, and what we do, right, and service departments might just be for 30 days or a couple weeks or a few months, right? So, anyway, so global mobility is a larger umbrella, and relocation deals with a permanent change. That's how I would define. Now, my question for you, and I see Jamie's question. I want to get to that, Jamie. But my question for you, Richard, is what the heck is the difference between service departments, temp housing, and corporate housing?
So I see service departments as a model that's developed outside of the state. I see service departments as what you would define in the US as furnished apartments. So they come furnished, whereas corporate housing, it's my understanding that they're not always furnished. So that's the main kind of difference, I think. So service departments, they're always furnished, so equals furnished apartments, whereas corporate housing isn't. Service departments can also be either in blocks, but very frequently they will be 3 or 4 units in a residential block, whereas it's my understanding corporate housing will be in the blocks. It's like you know, they're like hotels. Does that sound kind of right?
I you know, honestly, I was under the impression that they're all furnished. And I was under the impression, honestly, that they were pretty much the same. Maybe corporate housing might have other options, such as single family homes, right? That could be corporate housing, I guess. Corporate housing, also housing for corporations, right? So you're kind of being specific there, but I don't know. Actually, let's throw it out to the audience, because maybe they know.
Exactly, because Jackie's on the call. So Jackie from Court, it could probably clarify that one really, because I'm guessing that. So Jackie, do you also, are corporate housing providers, are they a market for you, in other words, and for temporary furniture as well?
Oh, I'm sure Jackie does a ton of business, I'm sure, with corporate housing. And I'd love to talk about that model too, because I think there's some interesting opportunities with the models there with furnished, you know, combining apartments with furniture and different ways to do that. Should we answer this question from Jamie here?
Yeah,
he's got
please, yeah. So exactly. So yeah, over to you, Ben.
All right. So Jamie says, Ben, how do you keep such a, I'm assuming the rigid schedule and keep grounded with your family life? Well, I think that there's a lot of strength and flexibility. So I try not to be too rigid. I do try to commit to doing a daily show. I used to do 5 a week. Now I'm doing 4 a week. This week, I'm only doing 2. And there was a point in my year and a half of doing this that would have been a really big problem for me. But my staff is actually, my team who helps me has really kind of like said, you know what, Ben, like, it's okay. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to be okay with only doing 2 or something. So I think flexibility is strength. And you're going to see me doing more stuff from the road. You're going to see me like getting a really mega hotspot and doing stuff from the airport or client offices or whatever. And then grounded with your family life, you know, Jamie, One thing I also say is like, the trick is like, how do you do so much? People say, how do you do so much? I say the trick is not to do so much. It's just to record everything you do. If you just videotape everything you do, people think you're insanely busy, right? And so you just do that. But as far as my family life, I mean, my kiddos are out there, 6 and 3. I just played a very competitive game of Jenga with my 6-year-old at the dinner table for 20 minutes with my dad on FaceTime. And that was a nice moment. And I got to hug him and check out his Lego, check out what he's doing with his Legos upstairs. So I just, when I have breaks in the day, I get to kind of go see him. And
Nice.
I just love him, So
That's
it's tough,
that's great story. Yeah, my wife's mother is in Germany. I was suggesting to her today to hook up with, I think it's Amazon Echo or something like that, and where you can see each other, because she's 91 and gets lonely, and it's it's tough. But the digital, apart from this 1.5 years or 15 months, proving to me how old I'm looking, because I'm always on camera with younger people. It's facilitated a lot of change in our sector, hasn't it? But we'll come on to that perhaps, because I think that the questions are mounting up here. So LinkedIn user, I'm afraid I don't know your name.
Let's see. Maybe I can pull it up here. I got it on my on my phone here. Yeah. Nina Taylor.
All right. Okay. So Nina's asking, Ben, what have you personally learned about having the uncommon discussions in the past few months, and have the talks made a positive impact on your life? I would like to interject real quickly there. They have for me, Nina, that's for sure. Seriously, yeah. But over to you, Ben.
Yeah, thanks, Nina. And I met Nina at a Saba event, Richard. So I have you to thank. Nina and I were thrust into the same little speed networking room, and we just made a connection in 3 minutes time or whatever, that I consider Nina a friend, even though we've not met in real life or in person yet. And I think she's going to be on the show. She's going to be in the Blue Room at some point, isn't she?
Next week. Yeah, next week.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Can't miss that. So Nina in Houston, I believe. So Nina, yeah, I mean, fortunately for me, I've been having a lot of these talks for a long time in my life, which is why I gravitate towards these discussions. And I think why I feel relatively more comfortable than some people having these discussions, even though I'll be honest, white fragility was hard. LGBTQ week was super hard for me. I definitely had a little bit of imposter syndrome. I definitely did not feel like I was necessarily the right person to be leading the discussions. But I kind of, honestly, I kind of pray about it. Nina, I know you're a spiritual person. I kind of pray about it. And I feel like God kind of chooses people who aren't likely necessarily, very unlikely people. And I felt like that was kind of me, honestly, with the LGBTQ talk. I feel like that was kind of me with, frankly, a lot of the Black Lives Matter discussions we were having last year, right? Like, okay, who's this white guy over here having all these conversations about issues around blackness and white privilege and things like that. But at the same time, I also recognized in having them, to the second part of your question here about, how they changed me and made an impact on me. I've learned that I have an opportunity to model some behaviors and some conversations for other people that look like me, because people that look like me and cisgender white males do not often feel very comfortable having these conversations. So I hope and I pray that I can make them more comfortable by being like kind of maybe a first one or kind of modeling it for them. And they say, well, if Ben's doing it, maybe I can do it. And now we're starting to have these conversations. And I think the familiarity eliminates the ignorance, which breeds the hate, and where the, and the prejudice and the things like that. So the more conversations we can have about it, the more familiar we can get with one another, the more we're going to learn that we are 99.9% alike. What is that Maya Angelou poem? We are more alike than unalike, my friends. It's just beautiful. So that's kind of, I think, the realization that I've gotten. Nina, thank you for the question.
Yeah, No, that's great. Thanks, Nina, and thank you, Ben. By the way, apart from introducing yourselves on the chat, people, so viewers, so please let us know who's out there and where you are viewing from. Also, please, you know, if we have make it interactive, if you like what's being said, then have some applause and some thumbs up and what have you. But yeah, it touched me a lot. I mean, I've got you know, a son in his 20s, and we've had some discussions about that, and quoting some of the things off your show, and I feel coming from the boomer generation, I felt that I was in need of a bit of education, and it's helped me a great deal.
Well, we all are. We all need some education, right? We all need some more information, right? And that doesn't make us bad people. It only, I think it just means we need more education. We just need to have more conversations, right? And I think not hiding it and admitting it, right, is totally cool. And what's great is we live in a time now where we're being authentic and we're just saying, hey, this is me. I you know, Richard's like, I don't know the difference between global mobility and relocation. And I'm like, I don't know the difference between service apartments and front, you know, and corporate housing, right? And we're just being open and honest. And I think we're coming from a place like that. And when you're open and honest, you don't have anything to worry about because you've already put your biggest fears, like, boom, out front and center. And so you don't need to really worry about it. I do have some corporate housing stuff I want to talk about, or service apartment stuff I want to talk about. Is that cool, Richard? Can we talk a little bit about that? Because I see a question.
Sarah will come on to some of your questions very, very quickly.
Yeah.
But yeah. Go for it.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's do it. Let's talk about it.
It's what, Sarah's question, you mean? So, yeah. Sarah, welcome, and thanks for your support as always, Sarah. It's great. So, a regular on Saba. How are global companies helping their own employees to make the right decision about choice of where to stay and who to stay with? The article on Airbnb in Bloomberg springs to mind. So how?
Yeah, this article, Richard, I don't know. Did you get a chance to read this article on Bloomberg? I think Newsweek ran it also. I mean, this thing was crazy. This was front page news on a national publication, maybe international publication. And it was an expose on Airbnb's security teams, something like this. And throw a link in the comments, Sarah. If you got a link or somebody have a link, throw it in there because people should read it. Now, here's the thing. It's sensationalized journalism. And a lot of times journalism is sensationalized. However, there's obviously truth in it, right? I mean, people were really getting, you know, there's violence happening. There's a rape that was detailed, kind of how that happened in there. There were situations that were just reprehensible. And it was eye-opening to see. I mean, it's crazy. And then so they have these security teams, which I guess kind of they're saying cover this stuff up. Now I've worked in customer service my whole life, you know, and basically that's what customer service does is we cover stuff up, but we make it better. We make it right, you know, and try to limit the noise and limit the negative impact with our clients or with the, you know, our Google reviews or whatever. So I kind of get that. You know, that being said, some of this stuff is really bad stuff. And I think that it's interesting to see if this has an impact or not. There is a huge pressure from corporations to save money. And there's a huge pressure from employees to have additional choice, extra choice. And these two factors are enormous and relentless. And I think that, you know, you see the Airbnbs and the lump sum tools and the tools that provide more and more choice and educate consumers or pretend to give guidance that will allow them to make smart decisions. You know, it's going to be hard to stem that tide. You know, our corporate partners talk about duty of care, you know, all the time as being table stakes and a requirement, you know, and yet what they do, in my opinion, doesn't always echo that same duty of care. So the question, Sarah, how are global companies helping their employees to make the right decision about choice and where to stay and who to stay with? I mean, ideally, they're using service department providers who are known and accountable. In actuality, though, I'm seeing trends, and I wish I had data on this, and I don't have data. If anybody has a study or data that they can share, that'd be awesome. But I'm seeing trends towards more lump sum, more employee choice, more self-managed programs. So I think this is a real opportunity for us as an industry. And I would talk to the associations out there. I don't think the associations have done a good enough job in really articulating the dangers, but also what can be done about it. We're seeing a lot of turnover also in the global mobility and relocation functions within organizations. Usually these are housed within benefits or total rewards. And frankly, it's a little bit of a black box position. And it's something that's oftentimes given to kind of the new person on the staff. And so I'm seeing a lot of greenness in that area. Whereas I think, when I got in this business 15 years ago, the people in that area were a little more tenured and kind of had some of the institutional knowledge to avoid some of these pitfalls. But I think that there's a new generation of people in those seats, and those folks have a different view of the Airbnbs of the world. I mean, they probably use them personally. I've used them personally. I'll tell you what, I've used Airbnb. I used Vrbo. I've used hotels, obviously, Expedia, Booking, whatever you want to call it. And I've said this many times, I'll say it again. The serviced apartment is the best deal in travel. The service department, if you can get a service department for, a short-term stay, if you're traveling, to me, that is literally the best deal in travel. The amenities through the roof, you have multiple rooms, you got the bedroom, you got the kitchen, you got the living room. I mean, and for the price of a hotel, I think it's amazing. So I think as a service department industry, we have an enormous opportunity to educate the general public about the quality accommodations and the amenities within service departments.
Fabulous. Thanks, Ben. And I think you're spot on. I think that, so before COVID, service department news, by the way, any viewers who don't subscribe to service department news, it's a great publication, as are their webinars. Before COVID, service department news were anticipating a trend for 2020 to be rogue travel. One of them to be rogue travel, in other words, travelers, possibly largely millennials, moving away from sticking to compliance, maybe even being allowed to move away from a more rigid kind of travel policies. But now that's kind of turned on its head, really, I think, with COVID and with an attention to safety, hygiene, and what have you. There was a webinar earlier on which I found very interesting. I'm not sure I'm at liberty to say who posted this. I would like to, but I'll avoid it just in case.
Sounds salacious, Richard.
Well, well, exactly. It's the contents that made me even more so, only because it deals with the law, not nothing else. But it's so no, it's great information for me, at least. Saying so, employers obviously they have legal duties of care to their employees. Duty of care, certainly in the UK, falls into civil law. Most of the health and safety legal issues have been put into criminal law. For example, acts and regulations like the Health and Safety at Work Act, the Management of Health and Safety at Work regulations, and many others. So there's the duty of care. There's duty of care both in civil law and in criminal law, and a breach under the duty of care can mean a claim for compensation by the injured person. So it can also mean enforcement or prosecution. So we're not used to that degree of in the UK like in the States perhaps, but it's certainly kind of
Yeah, you bring up some
Makes
really
it
good
clear.
stuff on duty of care there. I want to talk about that for a moment because I also, my background is really in the household goods moving business, or as you say, the removalists. And one of the things that we would always argue is that, if you're giving somebody a lump sum to go move themselves, like here's $10,000, go move yourself, right? Or 5,000 or 2,000 or virtually nothing. Go move yourself. What is the duty of care if they're driving a rental truck and that rental truck runs off the road into a ditch, or they lose control, or a tire blows out, or whatever, and they kill somebody? Where's the duty of care in that, and what is the liability to the corporation? And what I found out, and I'm not satisfied with this response, but what one lawyer told me is that there isn't a duty of care issue there because the employee made the decision on how to move themselves. So some organizations are saying, you know what, the least liability decision I can do is to give the employee a stipend and say, spend it how you want. Right? Because now whatever you choose to do is on you, right? If I make the travel arrangements, or if I book the move, or if I make these, accommodations for you, then I'm responsible for what happens to you. But if you make them, then that's on you. So now I think what's going to happen. So I'm not sure. I'd love to hear more legal opinions on this. I really do. And I think that if the industry could find some legal opinions or some legal precedent that actually showed where people were, where companies were actually getting, frankly sued, I think that would be a very compelling argument. But I don't know. I don't know about the duty of care thing. It's kind of interesting. I hope. I guess what I was going to say is I hope that what actually ends up happening is that the glass door effect comes in. I'm a fan of you get more flies with honey than you do with vinegar. I don't know if that's a saying over there in the UK, but here. And so I'm hopeful that by employers really focusing on their employment brand and becoming an employer of choice by offering top-notch benefits and experiences, which will translate to a 4.9 rating on Glassdoor, for instance, or these other employment review sites, that is, hopefully how we'll win. But I know some people are more motivated by liability than they are by opportunity.
Very good point there, actually, isn't it? Because if they've made a choice as to where they stay, then how can that be? How can the employer be held responsible? You mentioned their lump sum, and I know it's something that comes up a lot. Just as a brief kind of aside, so lump sum, you are for or against it? I don't know whether I should ask this question.
I'm adamantly opposed. This is like politics, honestly. Lump sum, where you stand on lump sum is could be a political discussion. I'm adamantly opposed. Some people got frustrated with me because I would spend too much time talking about it. So I've tried to talk less about it, but I have a whole soapbox I can stand on and shout at you for an hour about lump sum. But I am opposed.
We'll get you back on that. Okay, we'll get you back then. Ben, you can have a whole hour on.
I am opposed, and
okay,
furthermore, now that you asked, I'm opposed, and I think that service providers out there that really lead with lump sum solutions are kind of bottom feeders, honestly. Because they're not leading with quality, they're not leading with experience, they're selling on price, and I think that that is a devolving method, and I feel like that's a race to the bottom strategy for our industry.
Okay, thanks for that.
And I said that as a person who used to do that myself. I did that for 5 years. So yeah.
Right. Good. Thank you. So I guess we'll better run through some of the comments here.
Yeah.
So Sarah says, great question. That was Nina's. Oh, and Sarah also mentions that with service departments that we offer housekeeping and utilities as well. Perhaps they don't then in corporate housing. I'm not sure. I don't know. LinkedIn user again. Let's click that on.
They're
the same. The length of stay makes a difference.
Nina, yeah, it's Nina.
Yeah,
The length of
they're all
stay
the
makes a
same. The
difference.
length of
So
stay make a
serviced
difference.
apartments, then you could stay there for a few days, whereas corporate housing, it's like 30 days, or what's your
Could
understanding,
be.
Richard?
Maybe. Well, no. My understanding is that you see, we don't use the term corporate housing in the UK. Only if
Right.
it's when it's applied to US stays. So,
Interesting.
in terms of a US side interpretation of the terms, maybe Nina is correct there. Jamie, service departments are always managed, hands-on, whereas corporate housing is sometimes just a furnished apartment with all utility services inclusive. Okay,
Thank you.
well, we're all learning here.
I'm seeing a lot of
So
sameness,
Jackie,
though. Like, I'm still not 100% clear, but this is interesting. I'd love to hear it.
yeah. So Jackie, we do temperature. So Jackie from Core,
Oh,
we do temperature
yeah.
furniture for anyone
I
who
want to
needs
talk.
it.
I want to
Yeah,
talk about this too, Richard. Is that cool? Can we talk about this?
yep,
Because
go
there's
for it.
something I've been playing with. As I'm getting more and more into the service department space. Um,
Yeah.
you
Do you
know,
want to mention
there's
the
this.
company?
Oh, yeah, sure. I'm working with the Alto Vita. Been named their vice president of global growth. Super excited about it. It's an amazing team of female-led entrepreneurs and just incredible women. Very smart, very innovative, tech-enabled, but still with a human-centric approach. So, but not really here to plug that. But I mean, I will. Little plug. Thank you for that. But as we're trying to solve the problem of service departments, right? And it's really a chicken and the egg problem, because everybody wants instant access to pricing. People want to know what's available. A lot of people want to be able to book immediately, even though they know that it's not that simple. As 50% of the time we found it's as simple as, yeah, pretty straightforward. See it, like it, book it for the dates. 50% of the time it's like, oh, well, I have a dog. What kind of dog? Oh, and then you get in these kind of discussions that need a lot more hand holding, right? But there's also the problem of, and especially in the United States, where, especially after last year, where companies do not hold core inventory, not like they used to. They just don't hold the core inventory because in order to see what's available and see what it costs, it has to exist. And a lot of times it doesn't exist, is what I'm seeing. And so I'm curious about Jackie. Can we go back to Jackie real quick? Jackie's a real,
Yeah, sorry.
real sweetie. She also is the one that actually invited me to Clubhouse for the first time. So shout out to Jackie. But Jackie, do you see an opportunity where we can integrate with the apartments, all the apartment, systems, right? Where we can integrate to see all of the apartments unfurnished in the world. We can integrate with the furniture providers like the Courts of the world. And we can integrate with the property management companies who take the furniture and put them in the apartments and do all the other beautiful things that make it a fully furnished apartment and serviced apartment. Is there a way to integrate with all of those aspects to build packages in units that don't exist yet, but could exist with reliable pricing and reliable availability? That to me seems kind of like a holy grail opportunity for our industry, but I don't know.
So you'd like to see units, but with flexible furnishings, is that?
Yeah, and I mean, so there's apartments that are available in town here, but they're not furnished yet. And Jackie over here, and I'm talking about Jackie, and I'm using you, Jackie, and she says, wouldn't that be amazing? Has to be a way. And Jackie has all this furniture over here sitting in a warehouse somewhere, right? And I know this furniture needs to go in this apartment, and I know what the furniture costs, and I know what the apartment costs, and then I know what the management fee layer is going to cost me. Couldn't I build that theoretical inventory in a way that it's still viewable and accessible and reliably bookable? Even though it doesn't exist, it can still be shown to consumers to book.
Right.
Does that make any sense, or am I smoking something funny over here, Richard?
I thought it existed. I thought that that's how some accommodation providers work. That they have the apartment units and then they bring in furniture.
Well, no, I mean it exists in that way, and a lot of times what they'll do is the providers, the corporate housing providers will put what do they call them, ghost units, or whatever. They'll make something up and they'll put it on the internet and say, yeah, we've got this, but maybe the real unit doesn't actually exist. Maybe the furniture is sold out, and so of course the clients are always asking, is this the real furniture or is this a stock photo? Well, it's a stock photo. Of course, now with augmented reality, I can go on Wayfair and I could take my phone and I could say, hey, I want to buy a sofa and I want to put it right there. Show me what that looks like. Well, couldn't you take the same pictures of the inside of an apartment, put the furniture overlaid in there and show people, and they could even say, you know what, that court stuff is all right, but I really like this other stuff. Next. Say, I want this unit. I want that furniture. And you know what? This property management company has a 5-star rating. I want them to manage it for me, and put it all together.
That would be great. Yeah, that would be. There's probably a show like this in the States, but over in the UK, there's one where then somebody refurbishing the house has a choice of 3 designers, and they do all that, computer generated stuff, and they make a choice then as to who does the refurbishments. Yeah, that would be great. Yeah.
So we're getting some comments here. Yeah. Let's see what the people are saying, because some people say that would be amazing. Some people say, oh, what are you talking about? We'll be doing this forever. Yeah. Jackie says it would be amazing. It has to be a way. Jackie, are people doing this now? I want to hear your thoughts. Sarah, I think that would be open to abuse only if this is done by genuine providers. Interesting, Sarah. I'd love to know more about the abuse thing. What do you mean? Abuse? How so? I'd love to know.
Yeah. Right. I'll go back and I'll get some of the other comments. But yeah, that does sound.
Look at Jamie. Jamie's always keeping me honest over here. Jamie, I like Jamie. Jamie and I don't always agree, but it's good. I appreciate the fact he brings it up. Let's see what he has to say over here.
Which one's this?
No, the one down the most recent comment he made here. Jamie says, we do that all across the U.S., Ben. Anytime somebody puts your name in there, they're like, Ben, we do that all the time. We do that all across the U.S., Ben. We find it is. They're talking down to you. We find vacant apartments and quote all inclusive to many, many clients. Obviously, Jamie, I'm not an idiot. I get that. I know that's what the hell you've been doing for the last 20 years. If they like, we book and set it up. This has been going on for 20 years. Right. If they like, we book and set it up. Got it. Cool. But how do people see what availability you have? How can people find this in a way that's dynamic? I mean, otherwise you're just kind of creating mock-ups and uploading it maybe to platforms or whatever. But I mean, how can people browse what you can do in real time? They might call you and say, hey, I need a 2-bedroom in Sacramento. And then you send them over a bid with some stock photos of some furniture and an apartment or whatever. But like, that's a super manual process. There's no way to actually see that in real time. Jackie, need partnerships with major management companies. Yeah. Yeah. Interesting.
Kicking off in Newcastle.
Yeah.
So I'd like to go to Bianca. Bianca, thanks for joining us from Germany. Let's have a look. So I'm reading it online, Bianca. I've not read it yet. We're seeing more and more so-called commercial living objects like cozy apartments or Lime Home in Germany, service apartments created by tech companies with a completely digital guest journey, no direct contact at all. What do you think about that? I wonder if that's like through the OTA, through kind of OTAs. I'm not sure, to be honest, Bianca.
I'll say this from a guest standpoint, right? Because I'm not the service department expert. I know enough to be dangerous. They say dangerous for a reason, right? Because you can be wrong just as easy as you can be right. But here's my thoughts on this. I think that speed is service. And what I mean by that is, yes, it's good if it's good. Yes, it's good if it's kind and warm, but it's also good if it's fast. And if it's not fast, then the other things don't really matter as much these days. You know, I've worked for moving companies. I've been in the restaurant business. I mean, people value speed now almost anything, including even price to some degree. And I think it's really imperative that we get faster. So what these tech platforms are trying to do is they're trying to get fast. Now, I think I'm reading into Bianca a little bit here, but the counter argument is, yeah, but if the apartment sucks and the service is bad, and what does service really mean, right? The amenities bad, it's dirty, can't check in on time. If it takes you 1 minute to book it, but all these other problems exist, that's not going to work. It's bad, right? And I would agree. But these things aren't mutually exclusive either. So I'd say, how do we take a digitized guest journey? It doesn't have to be exclusively digital, but a digitized guest journey, perhaps combine it with some machine learning, right? Which will actually say, okay, this is what guests most often do. Therefore, we're going to curate the experience and give guests what they most likely want. I mean, this is how Google works now. This is how Pandora and Spotify and that works now. This is how LinkedIn works. This is why you're watching this program right now, is because LinkedIn has told you you're likely going to like this, so we're going to give it to you. And now it's up to Richard and Ben to actually deliver that, right? So I think that I'm in favor of digitized guest journeys. I am always in favor of a human being present to handle exceptions and one-offs. But I think that oftentimes human beings get in the way more than we help. And I know that's not a popular thing to say to human beings, but I'll tell you what, as a person who's looking at buying a car right now, I wish I could find a car that was fully autonomous, because I have more of a sense of security in a car that's doing the driving for me than I do a car that I'm driving. So I think that's going to be, as technology improves, I think that's going to be a much more popular route. So Bianca, I'd love to hear your thought about it as well. Richard, what do you think?
Driving, I don't know really. I was taken by your views on cars that drive themselves, and I'm picturing the boot or trunk, as you say in the States, full of Wild Turkey 101. Is that I suppose? I guess you can still get arrested, can you not, for drunk driving?
No, I don't think you would. I mean, do you get arrested for being drunk on an elevator or being drunk on an escalator? I mean, I don't think you do, right? So it's like, if I can get home from the pub in an Uber, am I getting arrested for drunk driving? No. Now, what if that Uber wasn't there? What if wasn't somebody sitting in the front seat? What if there was a machine that drove it? Would I still get arrested for drunk driving then? Yeah. So I mean, let's be honest. Human beings are fallible, right? We make mistakes. I mean, we kind of started the episode with, "Hey, we don't know everything." That's kind of the premise here, right? So, hey, Nina.
Yeah. That's good. No, that's good. All right, I'll run through some of the comments. So, yes, Nina, love your works, Ben. Thanks, Nina. Yeah, they are great. So, Nina Taylor. Ben, that would be that was a great way to answer the question. You've now set a standard to how to approach these conversations going forward. Kudos. Yeah, indeed. I echo that.
And just to be clear, that was in regards to the conversations around race and gender, not the conversations around fully digitized experiences in corporate housing, of which I'm not necessarily the expert.
Yeah, but yeah, thank you for making that point. Thanks for posting that, Sarah, that link. And just want to, by the way, whilst I'm looking through the comments, Ben, we've seen changes. We're talking there about change and agility and introduction of technology and what have you, and certainly it's impacting in service departments, so that they're anticipating I think they call it hotelization. The so Service Department News again did a webinar on that a while back. But where a shopping mall can be a shopping mall day, and it can be an apartment block the next day, and just those pop-up kind of apartments. So in the accommodation part of this relocation sector, that's happening. You've mentioned the increased introduction, is it perhaps, of technology in the relocation process? Is that what you're seeing?
Yeah, I mean, there's technology being introduced in every service vertical, and there's what's called like the consumerization of the industry, which is to introduce more choice and more transferee or assignee-led journeys, right? And more choice and more like a consumer experience, like an Amazon experience or a Booking.com experience or whatever. What's interesting is it used to be that business class was the better option, but I'm seeing now consumer grade is actually better in a lot of ways than business grade, where you have a few options curated, yes, but they're more expensive. They're a little more cumbersome. They're harder to administer. And I'm seeing that the consumer experience may eclipse the corporate experience in the next 5 years.
Right. We're seeing like disruptors. It's nothing new with Airbnb on the accommodation side. Are there similar disruptors on the relocation side? I mean, Alto Vita, is that kind of considered a disruptor, and that is it's?
Well, I think Alta Vita is, first of all, disruptors are in the eye of the incumbent, right? So who's a disruptor and who is being disruptive? It reminds me of when I was in school, right? I was labeled disruptive, right? Well, who labeled me that? The teacher did, right? Because she has an agenda and she wants to do this with the classroom, and I'm over here doing that. I'm doing this. I'm talking too much. I'm raising my hand. I'm chewing gum. I'm doing whatever I'm doing, right? I got into a little bit of trouble when I was a kid. But anyway, point being is, so disruption, first of all, is in the eye of the incumbent, right? So if somebody's being disruptive, they're disrupting the status quo. So to that end, I mean, yes, could Alta Vita be considered a disruptor? I think to some degree, yes. I think what Alta Vita is doing right now, what we're really attempting to do right now, and what we're doing, and what we're having getting a lot of traction around, is challenging the idea that corporate housing has to be a manual process. Challenging the idea that you have to send an email to somebody and they have to go do a bunch of research, and then they have to come back with the answer, and then you have to go present that to your transferee, and then they have to talk to their spouse and family about it, and they have to decide, yes, this one, and they come back to the relocation company, who goes back to corporate housing, and corporate housing says, hey, that unit doesn't exist anymore. Challenging the way things have been done. Yes, Alta Vita is definitely doing that. And I think what they're doing, and the reason why they're going to continue to be successful, and we are going to continue to be successful with it, is that duty of care and the human touch is at the center of it. And we're not replacing human beings in the process. We're augmenting human beings in the process. So we're using systems and technology to allow human beings to do human things. And I think that's really important, right? And when machines and technology come into play, everybody has a tendency, myself included, to freak out a little bit, right? Oh my God, what's going to happen to my job? Oh my God, what's going to happen to my business? Oh my, but in reality, it's all been pretty good. It's all been pretty good, So now, does that mean that we're going to be doing different things in the future? Yes. It probably means we're going to be doing things that we like a lot more. What's happening right now with a lot of platforms, because there's a lot of platform backlash, right? Oh, there's too many platforms. Oh, I can't keep up with all the platforms. Well, the reason people can't keep up with all the platforms is because the platforms are the illusion of automation. They're not actually automating anything other than sending you emails. That's all a lot of these platforms are doing, is just automating the client sending you a whole bunch of requests. And then what happens? Now you have to go and like, oh crap, I got all these emails. Oh, where's the pictures from this? Where's this? I got to make attachments for this. I got to build it and put it together and then send it back. And I got to do all that within 2 hours, or else I'm not going to win the business, and I'm going to get a nasty grant from my client saying I'm outside of my service delivery requirements or whatever, right? My SLAs or whatever. And like nobody wants to live like that. Human beings do not want to be on the hamster wheel of email. Okay, we're destined for greater than that. And I think what we're doing at Alto Vita, which is really exciting for me, and the reason why I joined the team, was we're getting people out of the human hamster wheel of responding to inquiries. So again, I didn't come here to plug, Alto Vita or myself or anything like that, but I am really passionate about it, and I hope people see that.
Absolutely. No, thanks, Ben. And yeah, no, it's an opportunity to mention those in the context of those discussions. It's all relevant. So, thank you for that. We're coming to the end of this broadcast. It's flown by, and I've literally probably gone through a third of my notes. So we're going to have to get you back at least twice more, Ben, if you've got the time. I do
would
thank
love
you
it
for your time, because I know you've got a no, you've got a really
I would
tight
love
itinerary.
it, Richard. And I'm going to be in London in August. So I would love to do something maybe in person with you one day.
That'd be good. That'd be good. I'm venturing out for the first time in 15 months on next Wednesday for my daughter's 20th. So I will have broken that little so I'll be in the bar all night, every night. No, that'd be great. At this stage, I would also like to thank very much the viewers that have taken the time to view, and those so both live and the recordings. If I could perhaps finish with a few little fun questions, Ben, too, because we've heard about the
I've been having a great time already, so I can't wait to see what happens next. All right, let's do it.
Yeah. So if you had to make a choice between some of these things, what would you do? What would be your preference? So wine or beer?
Wine or beer, and there's no description of what kind of wine or what kind of beer. I'm just like reaching in the cooler, and whatever I pull out is what's gonna. Okay, and the idea is I'm supposed to be quick with these answers. All right, beer.
No, you don't need to be. It's just that that's showing the real connoisseur. I usually check the back for how much alcohol it contains, but
Thank you. Yeah, I would say beer. I'd say all things being equal, I'd probably grab a beer before I grab a glass of wine, although I do enjoy both.
Okay.
And I'm a little disappointed that whiskey's not on the list, Richard.
Sorry, Aaron. No. Yeah. Phone or email?
Email. Unless I'm texting.
You don't
on my
like phone.
Sorry, I'm a millennial.
I've been spreading the gospel according to Ben in terms of phone, saying don't phone. I don't like it. I feel that I'm allowed to do that now because you've said it.
I don't. I love when I call people and I get their voicemail and they're like, please don't leave me a voicemail. I rarely check my voicemails. Please text, email, LinkedIn message me, like any other way, but that, yeah.
I'll be honest here, and I hope I don't annoy anybody, but it's I hate it when people leave a message say call me back. I know you don't want to listen to a 10-minute message on it, but just tell me a little bit about what you want to talk about. So
see, I hate when people leave me messages, period. But I leave everybody a message that says, "Hey, checking in, Richard. Hope you're well. Call me back." I do that all the time.
Really?
It's good we don't talk on the
phone. Yeah. Thanks, Jamie, by the way, for that. It's very kind of you. Really kind.
Thank you, Jamie.
So, baseball or football? We're talking American football.
American football? Oh, football all day. Yeah. I would even take your football over baseball.
Oh, really? Yeah. Yeah. Wow. Okay,
baseball is the most overrated sport in the U.S., in my opinion.
Okay. All right. This might not be of choice, but vacation in the States or abroad? Is there plenty of the States you've not seen?
I'll give you. So here's the deal. I've never really been abroad per se. Okay, I've been to like the Bahamas, I've been to Canada. I've never been anywhere of significance. This summer, I'm going to Europe, hopefully England, Switzerland. We'll see. We got to see what happens with the COVID restrictions and everything. So I'm really excited about that. I'm a little nervous because I've never done it before, but I suspect that I'm going to love it like crazy. That being said, I would tend to visit. I would tend to say abroad at this point. Places in the States. Is there somewhere in the States I haven't been that I really want to go check out? Gosh, I don't know. I like cities, and I can't think of one I haven't seen that I'd love to check out. That's terrible. I should come up with one.
We're watching. I know I'm late at this, but myself and my wife are watching The Sopranos at the moment, and the kind of the introduction to that, which shows kind of like really industrial New Jersey, doesn't it? And I'm thinking, I've never seen that before. Like Hollywood has sold me the picture of a really shiny kind of. So yeah, I'm sure there are plenty of lovely cities. And in fact, I got a WhatsApp from an old school friend who lives in the States now. He's lived there for about 30 years. Going through, driving through Wyoming, and there was a bison on the side of the road. I mean, so there are so many things really that I'm sure you can see in the States.
Yeah, Utah. My cousin's going to Utah to Zion National Park tonight. And Utah is a place I haven't been. I'd love to go check out Utah.
Right. No. Okay. Dinner-wise, Mexican or Italian?
Which of my kids do I love the most? I don't know, Richard. I mean, geez. I mean, I love both of those. I'm in Texas. I moved to Texas for the Mexican food. I mean, it's amazing here. I grew up with Italian in New York. I mean, I cook Italian at home. So I'm going to say Italian because I do. Sunday family dinner. I cook Italian, I make the gravy, make some homemade pasta maybe. I don't know if I'm feeling crazy. Yeah, Italian is probably my heart.
Well, I mean, you in a way you've been your own worst enemy there, Ben. Because on Clubhouse, by the way, anybody on Clubhouse, search global mobility, and there's some great rooms there. But on Clubhouse the other week, and you were talking about an avocado mixed with, and I was thinking, oh, can we get avocado? It went on the shopping list immediately. It was just like,
Yeah,
I could listen to it.
Yeah. Avocados are great.
So,
you know what? My wife showed me one thing. Okay, I'm sorry, Richard, but you said avocado. My wife showed me something yesterday. This is amazing. It's a trick. It's a hack on how to get the pit out of an avocado. All right. So you rotate the blade around. You have the half avocado. You have the one with the pit in it. Right. You get the pit out of the avocado without using a blade and like taking it out like that, almost chopping your hand off. You can push the back. Just push the back through. You can push the pit right out through the back. Yeah. Try it.
I'll try that.
Amazing.
Oh, good. Yeah, good tip. No, seriously, thanks. Yeah. Right now, we really must leave it. The last, and possibly relevant question, because I think you're on the plane later, is train or plane?
I haven't been on a good train in a while. The thing about trains, which is amazing, and I can't wait to do Europe by train. But the thing about trains is you can bring your own alcohol, you can bring your own food, you can wander about. The seats are a little bigger, which is really important for me. So I'm gonna go train. I haven't trained in a while. I'm gonna go train.
Yeah. Wow. Okay, that's nice. Yeah, we don't have trains like you in the UK, and they're always late. So I think it would be definitely planes would win over here. But yeah. I'm not going to risk the outro video because we're still waiting for the intro video. So we'll skip that one. But again, Ben, thank you very much indeed for your very valued time. It's been an absolute pleasure, and I really hope that we can get you back very shortly. Next week we've got Nina Taylor of the Sweet Faith. So please tune in. 4 o'clock. It is 4 o'clock London time. That's 10 o'clock Central Standard Time for Nina. But yeah, again, Ben, thank you very much indeed, and thank you to everybody who's viewing. Thank you.
Thank you, Richard. Thanks, everybody. It's good to see you.
Bye.